Welcome to MSP Unplugged Resource Thursday with the MSP Growth Coalition. I'm your host, Rick Smith. This is the place to learn tips, tricks, and strategies to run your IT service business. Whether you're a one-person shop or leading a team for the journey, this is the place for you. Let me introduce my co-host, Mr. Paco Lebron of ProdigyTeks. Paco, how are you today, sir?
You know my saying, what I like to say, better than good, better than most.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'd like to give a welcome to our guest, Mr. Juan Fernandez of the MSP Growth Coalition. Juan, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing good, guys. Just enjoying a little tea and looking forward to spending the next few minutes with you guys.
Sounds good. We're looking forward to it as well. Now, before we get started with Juan and what's going on with the MSP Growth Coalition, I'd like to give a quick shout out to our upcoming event, Techcon Unplugged. Techcon Unplugged is September 16th to the 18th at the Hilton Rosemont Chicago O'Hare. There you will learn from like-minded business owners and panels and breakout sessions, gain key takeaways from partners and vendors in the space. And my favorite part of the whole thing, you get to experience that one-on-one or spontaneous group conversations where Paco likes to say, the magic happens. We got a couple of quick updates on what's going on right now. The partial agenda is up. We're still updating it, but there are some additions, and we plan to be making additions each month. We've had some new vendors join in, so you can see that as well. You'll see their logos. We will be putting up more images of the people coming to speak, so you'll know who you're dealing with. Our Saturday night social is set, and it's going to be sponsored by Gradient and Acronis. And for those of you planning on coming, like to make give a quick heed to say, hey, if you're coming, maybe you want to think about coming in late Thursday night or early Friday morning, because we have confirmed that we will have a Friday pre-show, some pre-show events, which will be basically some deep dive learnings that was very popular last year. I know a lot of you were there and you saw Cyber Matt Lee's Microsoft Intune presentation last year, which was awesome. Now tickets are $2.99, but there are some early birds, some discount codes out there. So you can head over to techconunplugged.com to get your tickets, and we look forward to seeing you there. Okay, Juan, again, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Always a pleasure, man.
Okay, now before we get started on what's going on with the MSP Growth Coalition, give us a little bit of background on yourself and how your road that got you to the MSP Growth Coalition.
Absolutely. I'm no different than anybody else that's probably joining on the session here today. I'm a bootstrapped MSP business owner through and through. Like at the end of the day, when I think back to my first journey into managed services back in the 90s, it wasn't even managed services then, it was break fix. I remember competing against Gateway and like building clones and trying to, think that being cheaper was going to be a better opportunity. I could be less expensive than the next guy. So it was definitely an interesting thought process in my first business, right? And so I built a great company, back then. Long story short, it wasn't the biggest success that I've ever had, but it taught me a lot. And in those early years, I remember thinking back, like, there's not a lot of people to help you out in business. And it really bothered me that there wasn't like a lot of support there. It felt like I was kind of just walking alone in the dark for a long time. And, I didn't have a lot of people around me that knew business. Nobody knew tech back then. And so, and I don't mean nobody, but I mean anybody that I was around, which made a killing for what we were trying to accomplish. But it was just one of those things where I just felt like there was a lot that it could have been shared, could have been learned, could have been brought together, as I moved on through my business and exited that one unsuccessfully, and then moved on into, going back in industry, figuring out how people buy, understanding the challenges, and then ultimately creating another model for managed services in 2014. I created another MSP. And during that time, I had created a model, right? I took all these years to try to figure out what I had done wrong in the first one, figure out how people buy, figure out how to win. And then I took that to market in 2015, and then I took that MSP from 0 to about 20 million in about 6 years. And we built a repeatable, scalable process that actually was very simple in its design and very holistic in what it was intended to do, and made a lot of money, and we grew very fast to about 16 locations across the US. But during that time, I never forgot what I remember from when I failed the first time is there was a lot of people out there looking for help. And I was one of those. Like, so during that time, I shared for a lot of you that have been at any of the stuff that I've done. I've given away my 4 key go-to-market strategies every MSP must master. I've given away my process, my product, the way you deliver it, sales tactics, techniques, all through all these, tech events where that wasn't something most MSPs were doing. And once we found perfection in them, I would take them and give them away. And I'm still the same way today, right? I think that we continue to need to share. And I love the fact that there's a community, and you guys are building a great one here at TechCon, and I love to hear what you're doing and how you're sharing and giving back, because I think together we all learn, and we all have experienced certain things, and we're at different parts, places in our journey, whether it be our first year into managed services or our 10th year into managed services. Challenges, depending on where we got to in certain parts of our life, are always there. And so I just do as much as I can to try to share back. And that's really when I exited this last MSP. I felt like my passion was really in helping others. And that's what really spawned the Growth Coalition, was that my heart's in giving back. I recognize that we don't all know what we're doing. I'm honest, I didn't. That's why I burned my first MSP, or my first technology company, to the ground. And so I didn't know what I didn't know. And now I know what I don't know. And now I'm like, okay, now I realized what I didn't know. And so it's like, all right, now let's go tell everyone. All right. So you don't have to walk through the dark alleys and get beat up again like I did, man. So that's why I'm here, man. That's what the Growth Coalition's about. And I'm really excited to help and share today.
Yeah, mute, Rick.
Oh.
Wow. I was trying to be quiet while you were talking, and then forgot I was.
Rick was getting hyped up back there.
I was, but it's a very. I'm listening to you, and it's a very admirable thing you're doing. I mean, because I greatly appreciate we here trying to do the same thing. Just trying to give back to the community, help others with some of the knowledge we've gained, and hopefully learn from everyone else as well. But it's a very admirable thing, and I commend you for it. Paco, I know you've spent some time. I know you went to an event that the MSP Growth Coalition held. You want to give some feedback on what you got?
Yeah. I mean, I think, kind of to go back a little bit, I met Juan. I've known of Juan. He's been in a lot of the circles that we all know and love, like Channel Pro, Channel Futures / Channel Partners. And honestly, it was an interesting thing where I seen, for me personally, as a Latino, right, and being in that route, is like it was hard in the industry to not see someone successful of Latino descent. And so I noticed Juan right away. I followed him. I think I followed him for like years on LinkedIn. And then one day he just messaged me. He's like, "Hey, bro, see what you're doing. Let's chat." And I was like, "Oh, shit." So I went ahead, and I mean, it was like we were just old friends. I mean, we were on the phone for like hours, and and he is a good friend of mine. We've built a great rapport over the past year and a half, maybe even 2 years now. I can't remember, because COVID kind of just stretched everything out. And so, and I respect his opinion. He was, again, and what Juan says is what Juan is about. He's a very straight shooter. He was saying when he says he gives it away, he gives it away. And it was interesting because like our first call, it was just like, "Hey, let's catch up. Let's see what's going on. How can I help you?" And just in our conversations, he was like, "All right, I think you can do this, this, and this." And I was like, "Oh shit. Like, that's amazing." And so it just was like those little things. And that was when Juan was at his MSP at the time. So when he broke away and started doing the MSP Growth Coalition, my first initial reaction was just, I'm just going to support, right? Like, Juan's my friend. I'm going to do whatever his journey is. But what came of that was, it was so interesting to see exactly what he said on those scalable models, like really going through on, hey, look, and he has a phrase, and he'll probably mention it during the call, is like, how are you going to go ahead and put that quarter in the machine and get the dollar out, right? Because you should be working to have that freedom for your business. It's not about the money. It's about how can you get the freedom and how do you educate and give back, right? And that was a really thing that stuck with me. So while everybody was at a trade show in Cancun,
Oh
we
yeah.
were and Juan held a 2-day MSP Growth Summit with the good friends over at Great America
Yeah.
/ Collaborants, who offered their facilities, and it was a 2-day fire hose part best, really great subject matter experts that really ran through. Like, I mean, I still have the packet on my desk right here. All right. And, I show that because Juan is willing to give anything out, right? And he's not afraid to see others succeed, right? And with whatever he has going on, whether it's the model he has, what he's currently doing. And so coming from that allowed me to think of things a little bit differently. It also, we always talk on Resource Thursdays whenever we have a resource on the show is how do you save MSPs money, time, and improve services? And it knocked all three, right? And so I've always talked about the holy trinity of sales, where it's like you want to either increase revenue, reduce cost, or expand market share. And it knocked all three out of the park. So it really allowed me to understand from that summit, but also just what they're doing right now. And as you see, Juan's in a lot of circuits. Juan has assembled a lot of great groups to give back as well. There's the difference makers with a select few that we're trying to shake up the industry, right? And I think Josh Weiss and Matt Wren, who was on 2 weeks ago, talked a little bit about that. But I think that all in all, there's a lot of value that you can have with relationships. And then I'm just kind of fortunate to have had that with Juan and kind of be on that journey and learn from the MSP Growth Coalition as well.
That's awesome, man. It's honorable to hear that, bro. That's all that we care about. Honestly, people ask me that all the time. They ask me at ChannelCon. One person pulled me aside one time and said, "What's in it for you? Why are you doing this?" And I said, "I just like to see people succeed, man. Like, I get to watch people propel their businesses to the nth degree. I love when people come up to me years later and say, dude, what you said that day changed my business forever. I changed my models. I did this, I did that." And that to me is what it's worth. Like, and I don't think we've lost sight of that, in a lot of this stuff. And so for me, I'm just trying to bring back community, man. Like, that's the biggest thing for me. I don't have any dog in this fight. Like, it's just, let's just share and build that community again. I miss that a lot.
Yeah. And I will say, for all the times that I'm gone, it's usually Juan's fault because I got invited to speak at an event, but it also is a blessing
so
as well.
I gotta blame.
Hey, man.
when I leave Rick by himself, but it is a blessing that, Juan has been able to help, give me, his, he's putting his name on the line on a lot of the relationships he has. Right. And it just shows on his knowing good people and what the community needs. And hopefully I can provide that perspective as well. So it really has opened up on that route, not only the business, but my own being able to voice my own opinion, right? And helping others to see others like us that are on stage and know that it could be done too, which is a really great feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's an awesome thing. It's like, and I commend you both, because I know, Juan, I'll say this: Paco speaks very highly of you, and when we talk, he'll always say, "My good friend Juan Fernandez said this," or "My good friend Juan Fernandez said that." So he speaks very highly of you. And I always talk about Latrice, who does some work for us and works for me. Always says, "You talk so highly about Paco," and I say, "Yeah, I'm older than him, but he's my teacher," and I speak highly of him because I do appreciate the attitude and the willingness to give back to the community. He's very, very adamant about that, and I guess I see where he gets it from. But but it's to both of you guys, I tip my hat. It's an admirable thing, and the thing we all need to realize, even though the MSP community is a small community, quote unquote, there's enough business for all of us, and there's no reason we can't share and learn from each other and grow together. Absolutely. And it just takes people willing to give a little bit of their time, some tips, some tricks, some trade secrets, whatever it may be, to help the next person pull the next person up. And it's one of the things that I think is very admirable from you guys, and is one of the reasons why I'm here. working, because I learned a ton watching these guys, put the show on and just watching every Sunday when it was on Sunday nights, giving up my Sunday, my wife yelling at me to come to dinner. But, it was just one of those things where you learn it and you appreciate the fact that people are willing to share. And that is the great thing about it. So to both of you guys, my hat's off.
Hey, so your wife doesn't do that anymore? Because my wife just last night was telling me, "Are you ever going to get off that damn phone?" Well, I was like, "What? Like I thought we've been together for 30 years. I'm going to work."
You're not tired of me already?
Like the last 5 seconds before that food is ready, like you're sitting down, I'll come scraping in. You know what I mean? Well,
and you get the mean mug right away. Yep.
Now it's Paco that gets in trouble all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Shout out to Vanessa. Love her.
Vanessa, much love. Just kidding. Paco's playing. He's got a long weekend. He'll make it up to you.
Yep.
So,
go ahead.
No, it was one of the big things too, and I will say this is, I think I heard this yesterday for the first time in my life. That little meme that says I was today years old. I didn't know this, man. But yesterday I was on a show with Michelle Ragusa McBain, and we were talking about community. She said something yesterday which was mind-boggling. Never even knew this. She said, "I like to think of geese whenever I'm thinking of the pyramid." And I said, all right, cool. And she said, "Do you know why geese fly in a V?" And I said, "I have no idea." And one of the things that she said was to me so mind-blowing that I just actually had to go and look it up, was the reason that, they fly in a V because the one in the front, as he's flapping his wings, or he or she, whatever, is flapping their wings in the front, the current from the flap of their wings actually lifts up the one behind them. And so those ones, as they flap, it actually raises up the entire group and increases the wind drag so that they can all fly simply. And the ones in the back that are honking, making noise, are actually honking because they're cheering the ones on in the front so that they fly further and faster, so that it lifts up the whole group. And I said, "Oh man, that is like the coolest analogy I've ever heard in my life." By far, I didn't know that. Like I didn't know that. So much love, Michelle Ragusa McBain from Cisco. She gave me that yesterday on our show for Build It Live. That's coming up here in July 27th through 29th. I couldn't believe that. I was just like, "Oh, I got to tell that again." I will always remember that now.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And I think that's what it means. Like sometimes the loudest voices, I don't know everything, right? I don't know everything. I can tell you that right now. But what I do know is what works. And that's what I love to share, is like when I come up with a process or a procedure that I know kills, I share that immediately. You know what I mean? So like, it may not be the only way to do it. It may not be the right way for everyone to do it, but it's a way, and it works, right? So if I have proven success method, that's really the only time I share with anybody. And I think that helps everyone elevate, because then someone will build upon that. Like I have people that were like, I took your X as a service model and I did this to it, I did that to it, and like now I'm slaying business. And I'm like, perfect. That's exactly what it was intended for, is to innovate upon.
Yeah. No, I mean, going back to, as Rick has mentioned, on the, oversharing, because like he says it, and I've heard that phrase used before about me, is that I'm an open book. Like anyone asks me anything, whether it's live in public, whatever, I'll give it all away. Right. I'll just say it. It doesn't matter. Right. Because there's a couple reasons. One, I've been blessed to have 3 mentors over my course of my career. It's David Nelson in corporate America, who's over at Rick Hendricks Auto Group. I have John Dubinsky, who is now exited from the Maven Group. And then obviously I have Juan as well, who's helped me in this latest stint of my career. And so, but something that David Nelson mentioned to me way back when is that if you have the opportunity to take that elevator up, it's your obligation to send the elevator back down.
Yeah.
That's just it. And I don't know if that's his quote. I think I've heard it in other places too. He probably got it from there, but that's something that's always stuck with me on just a lot of things during my life in early years, because again, and I even mentioned this on our 9 years that we hit in February, if you would have told any of my coworkers back in 2007 that I was going to be a business owner and appear and talking and all this, like they say you lose your mind. Like I was a kid out of the west side of a Puerto Rican community called Humboldt Park in Chicago. Like there's no way that these two are the same individuals, but it also shows you the growth. Yeah. But going back into that, it's so important on the mentorship, right? And being able to, and you hear this a lot. It's like, well, how do I find a mentor? How do I, like Juan doesn't advertise that he's a mentor, but I've recognized the value and I can classify him that as, he probably doesn't even think he's a mentor, but to me, I'm now gaining that experience and that he's helping build the blocks of life for me so that I can try and give my own spin to someone else and moving forward from there. Right. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those that's amazing on how giving back makes you feel good. And it's just one of those where it's like somebody was saying the other day, I forgot where I was watching it. It's like, money doesn't buy happiness. And they're like, yeah, it does. It's because it gives you happiness when you give it away. And it's like that with the same thing with information and knowledge is the same piece as well. So that's my tail spin of the situation of mentorship and giving back, because you just never know who it is that's going to need one nugget to kind of skyrocket them out to doing what they got to do.
Yeah, I love that.
And for the most part, a lot of times mentors don't, like you said, don't even know they're mentors. You may not even meet them, and it's just somebody you watch or you listen to, or you just observe, and you pick up the good qualities. And what happens is a lot of times is good qualities permeate out, and people pick that up and they say, hey, there's something about that person, male or female, whatever, that that attracts me to them, that attracts me to what they're doing. And it, you at that point, where Yorsini wrote, but money buys jet skis.
Right, money
true.
Jet skis, which if we were on one right now, we'd be having a ton of fun. So Ray, I love it.
But hey guys, let's talk a little bit about some of the things we talked earlier about, just maybe giving some good advice to MSP Juan. If you could talk to someone, sit them down, put your hand on their shoulder, or however you do it, what would you tell them about growing their business?
Despite growing your business, the first thing that I would do, and I'll tell you how I built mine and the way I did it. I built a profit protection program. And the reason that I did that is because I said something earlier, and I think you've all heard and said it yourself. I could be cheaper. That was probably the dumbest thing I ever said, because it was a horrible business move. There's a reason that I said that, and it made me think that my time was negotiable in my head. Subconsciously, I felt like I could do anything to get the work, but not charge the amount that I needed to charge to stay in business. Right. So it messed with me mentally, thinking that and saying that I can be cheaper. It really just messed with my head. So I stopped saying that and said, I'm building a profit protection program, because I had to figure out what it was going to take for me to live the life I wanted to live. I had to figure out how to carry the employees and staff that I needed and wanted to be part of the team. And I had to figure out what it is that I wanted to do and how I wanted to grow the company. And when I started thinking like that, it stopped me from negotiating at the deal table to undervalue what I was doing for the customer. It was a hard line in the sand. It was like, this is my price. This is my product. This is the outcome. This is what you're going to get for it. Either you want that or you don't, but I'm not going to negotiate my livelihood to serve you.
Right.
And I brought back that I am valuable token, and I put it in my pocket, and I never took it back out. Right. And I think that if anybody, and I said, somebody was sitting down with me at dinner the other night at IT Nation Evolve. He said, I'm getting ready to start an MSP, man. All right. So here's the thing. He's sitting next to me, dead set, ready to start his business. And I remember this glitter in my eye, and I remember thinking, oh man, I know where you're at, boy. You're about to make a mistake. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to run headstrong into the wind, and you're just going to jump. And you don't realize that that ground is going to come a lot faster than you think. But what he said to me was, so I'm certified. I know the tech. Okay, tell me what I need to do. So is it about firewalls and security and about, all the gadgets and gadgets and the products and services and this, that, and the other. And if I just land one customer, man, I got a business and I'm ready to go. And I was like, No, you got it all wrong, bro. I thought the same thing one time. I thought it was about the tech. I thought it was about if I just provide these services and these products to this customer, they're just going to buy it. That was the wrong mantra. And so, Rick, when you asked me what would I tell myself, my past self, is sit down and think about what you're going to do and how you're going to be intentional about it. And like, what does it take to live your life? Like, you know what it costs to make a house payment. The worst thing that ever happened to me was having to decide whether or not I was going to pay my employees or I was going to make my house payment. And that was my fault because I knew I took that big job and I knew that it was going to be tight when I took that job. But when it came time to pay the people, I had to make the decision. It was like, okay, I decided to take that job because I wanted to keep people employed, not because I was trying to program to make myself rich, right? So the choice was mine then and the choice is mine now, and I had to make the right choice and pay the people, right? So you got to take that number and you got to figure out what that looks like. Create a budget, create a plan. It doesn't have to, even if you're at it right now and you're like, man, I'm just not making money at this managed services thing, I'm barely surviving. You can always take and look at that and model what your cost per seat should be, what your customer relationships are, look at your customer penetration, where can you sell new products and services. It's never too late to stop what you're doing to do it right. Mm-hmm. And so for those of you who are already kind of down the road, I was talking to some guys that have been in business 18 years. They're like, yeah, you know, I'm not making it. You know, it's been a struggle my entire career. And I'm like, it's never too late to stop and start over. We learned that in the pandemic. Yep. So if you're getting ready to jump off the cliff, more power to you. Grab a parachute. It's fun. I've done it now. I can't even tell you how many businesses I've spun up now. I think I have 5 right now, you know, and it's, but I'm very intentional about what I do now. And I think that anybody that's out there, especially anyone in the community, would give you that advice is like, pick a path, build a plan, and know where you're going, man. At least start somewhere. You know what I mean? Like instead of just nowhere. I remember, for instance, I can say this because I did this. I didn't even know how to I didn't even know how to go get a business license when I launched my first computer company. I quit working for the federal government, said I'm going to go sell computers, didn't even know where to start. Had to like go to the SBA and like figure I didn't even know how to go to the SBA and was like, hey, how do I start a business? And they were like, oh, you got to get a business license, dude. Then you got to file for like this tax ID thing. And I was like, why? And they're like, oh, you got to pay taxes. And I was like, no, like, government work I got $400 like from this lady that paying for a computer. Who you got to pay taxes on that money. I was like, what are you talking about? No, this is $400. This is great money. They're like, no, you got paid $150. You got to pay the rest of that in taxes. I was like, so, I mean, when you there's a cost of doing business, right? And I think that's the biggest stepping stone is really understanding all of it. And so this is a great place to find mentors, if you will, like Paco said, that have been down that road, man. It's never too late to ask the dumb question. Like everyone always says, I'm going to ask a dumb question. I'm like, there's no dumb questions, man. It's just that you haven't got to that point or you just didn't get that education. Right. It doesn't mean you're dumb. Like I ask a ton of questions. If anyone you ask, the first thing you're going to get from me is questions. Why? Because I want to know. Yep. It's not because I'm asking because I'm trying to figure you out. It's because sometimes I just don't know. Right. So I think that's the coolest part, man, about the community. And so good advice. Profit protection plan. Build one. Know where you're going to make your money before you get started in any aspect of your business. Like if you're going to launch a new service or product, create your profit protection plan. How you can make money with it? What's your total cost? What's your real opportunity cost? And what is your real expense? Are you going to make money at it or not? If you're not going to make money, don't do it. They say this all the time. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. That's legit. Don't do it if it doesn't make money. And I'm not saying we can't do everything because the Microsoft thing is still pissing me off, but we can figure out how to make money around that. I mean, there are certain things we've got to get forced into like that, but there's a lot of other ways.
So there's a couple of things on that. So, a good friend, Alex Farling over at Lifecycle Insights, being the cheapest is a disastrous race to the bottom. There's always someone willing to go out of business faster than you. And I think that's a great phrase to really say that on that front. And then, I think like you said, is that, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. Right. And I think that's a phrase that you've probably used quite a few times that I've heard And it just makes sense, right? And it's just like
Yeah.
sometimes, I remember when I was talking to John, and then when he started helping me out with the business after he exited his MSP, he's like, "Man, you're making Chicago money." It's like, no, this is the rate, man. This is what we need to do to survive, right? And so there's always that concept where people think that they're leaving money on the table, and the question is, well, why do you think that? And so you got to go back and try and figure it out, which you've dubbed the profit protection plan.
Yeah.
But you really got to figure out your costs. Got to really figure out what's going on, because, I think Rick was the one that kind of had a good a method of how he was kind of calculating all his stuff. And I was like, damn, I didn't even think about like that operational software that I was using myself should be thrown in there. It's not just the burn-in rate, which is the payment you're giving to your employees and things of that nature. So it definitely tells you a lot on what to try and figure out, right? And it's always better to look in and what you got versus trying to grab what you need or can with like new customers, new things of that nature. You may be able to discover some lost revenue like I did after fixing some billing issues.
Man, I tell you what, it's often times where we go through and we have a thing called the customer penetration model. And when we look at that, we actually look at the actual profit of customer profitability against that customer, and actually what our total time is versus total tickets versus the total cost of goods and everything. And actually, it's interesting. Most MSPs will say, I'll say, who's your most valuable customer before they even say anything. And they're like, oh, this person. And I'll be like, why do you think they're your most valuable customer? And they'll be like, oh man, they spend a lot of money with us. And then we go through that whole exercise, and then lo and behold, their the highest revenue generating customer is probably the one that they're losing the most money with. And it's actually pretty ironic to see. And they're like, dude, what do you mean? And I'm like, here's the numbers. Like the amount of time you're spending on that is costing your entire customer base. And look at all this lost opportunity. Like, here's your customer penetration model. Like, here's your stack and here's your alignment with these customers. Alex Farling's a good one for this, man. They got that sweet, customer success model and penetration modeling in the lifecycle insights. Like the visibility there, like most people don't look at that. And to your point, like we often go chase a new customer when, truth be told, we should just be chasing deeper and wider relationships. I love whenever I have a customer that sticks around for a long time. That means I'm doing a good job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where I think often we look to grow our business and the revenue, but we're not always looking at growing our profit. And that's where I think when I say profit protection program, you got to be making money. Trust me. And when you make money, you can do anything. But until then, figure out whether or not.
Ray.
Yeah, no jet skis, man. We can't go ride those jet skis with Ray.
Nope.
But it brings up something you said, and when you talk about that, it's like two things that it's hard, and I'll say this because I've been there, speaking
It's
just
hard.
from experience and understanding. When you're starting or when you're changing or moving, it's hard sometimes to have the discipline to say no when you should say no, because no one wants to say, hey, I turned down money. But someone pointed out to me something that makes a lot of sense. They say, what do you do? I say, I run an IT service business. Now, you forget a lot of times the business part in IT service business, right?
Yeah.
You want to do the IT service and you don't think about the business part. And the business is important. As much as, we want to stress the, serving our customers, being the best, keeping them safe, we still run a business that has to pay bills. And that is where the true discipline comes in, is to really be the business of the IT service business. And it's something that, God, I'm sorry.
Here's one last thing I want to mention. And I don't think we do this often, is where are you accounting for your time? I do this often where even I go back and I look, okay, how much time am I spending on this? And here's my value of my time. And then I look at that XY axis. And if I'm not making money on that, I don't care how good it looks, I'm out. You know what I mean? I'm out. Like, I'm not. Like, if I'm not making money, I'm out. And I know that takes a lot to say, but like at some point you got to just say, I'm worth something, man. Like, this business is here for me. I'm not here for it. You know what I mean? And that's where you have to be very intentional. And I think that business owners that you work with will be, I've said it often, at the deal table. It's like, look, my price is my price. If you want something cheaper, that's great. You can probably find that somewhere else. But like, I'm not here to go out of business. Like, there's no value in me not being here tomorrow for you. Like, it's just the cost is the cost. Like, as a business owner to business owner, you can't drop your price just because somebody wants something cheaper. Like, that's not how it works, right? So
Right.
put your cost in. Like, what is your value? What's your time? If it's $200 an hour, which that's kind of the number that I float around, personal money. That's what I put association with. Like, if I'm not making that, I'm not doing it, And so I just say, put a value on what your time so that you can have a good life too.
Yeah. And then we have another character in the chat here. We got our good friend, me and Juan's friend, Dean.
What's
Talking about
up, Dean?
not all money is good money. Be selective. So appreciate you tuning in, and it is the true statement.
Yeah, it's some money, smart. There's smart money and there's dumb money. I've
Right.
chased them both. You know what I mean? And it's not. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just trying to be honest. Like, sometimes it just doesn't make sense. As good as it may look, and as where you're at in your life right now, that one thing, that one little bit of revenue you think is going to help you get to that next hump, you got bigger problems. And I didn't realize that the first time. I chased revenue. I took my company to like multi-millions, and I chased money, and that's what burned me down. And it wasn't the revenue. I was like, I was doing $7 million top line, but I wasn't making but 150K bottom. Like, I wasn't making anything. That was transactional business. It was foolish. It looked good. It's like, oh, I did 7 million last year. Didn't make a damn cent, but made 7 million.
Everyone's hung up on revenue, but they never
Looks
can
great on
figure
the
out the
top part of
profit.
the paper.
Yeah, it's like now I can say, we were kicking out 13 to 15% EBITDA. Like, that's money. That's folding money. You know what I mean? And that's after paying everybody salaries that they were worth. I loved one of the things I absolutely love, and I've done this all and pretty much every company I've spun up. I always ask people, how much are you worth? I don't say the job is paying this much. How much are you worth? And it's interesting to hear, even in that connotation, what people will say. And I know the people that I'm talking are worth 200, 300,000. And they're like, I think I'd be okay with 120. And I'm like, what? What? Like, dude, what? Like, no. Are you serious right now? Like, that's the best deal of the day. I'm not going to do that. How about I give you 180? Like, let's just split the difference. They're like, oh, this is great. I'm like, you're undervaluing yourself. And we do that all the time, especially as Hispanics, as people of color, as that imposter syndrome. We allow the world to classify our worth, and we got to stop that shit. Excuse my language, but we got to stop that. You got to recognize your value, and you got to make it worth your time. So that's my tip of the day.
Yep.
And we're now way super over.
I know.
We're good. I think everyone's tuned in and enjoying. So, but one of the things that it brings me back to as well, when you talk about turning down business or being smart about your choices, one of the things we all should keep in mind, no matter what number you're doing, there are MSPs doing, as Juan just said, 7 million, 20 million, 10 million, 2 million, whatever it is. They got there by being smart about it. They made mistakes along the way, so learn from their mistakes. But the fact of the matter is, the proof is, and the path has been laid out that it's possible, and that you don't have to take everything that walks in the door. Because, no disrespect to anyone doing any number, there's no reason why they can do it and I don't, if I put in the same energy, the same effort, and the same work. So we all have to go into there with that mentality. Like you said, don't chase bad money, because the part about that is you spend more energy and time chasing bad money than you do good money. And but just I always say I've learned as I've started to grow and get smarter. It took me a long time to get there. I'll freely admit that. But modeling,
I'm there.
modeling and following and believing in the way to do it, the right way to do it, pays dividends. It may be a little slower, but it pays dividends.
One last thing on that. I'm going to just say this because I think everyone out there has this conception that there's a magic wand that you can wave over a managed services business by following KPIs. I'm not going to say that KPIs are a bad thing, but I will say KPIs, when I built mine, I made my own KPIs based on my model. Stop looking to be like everyone else and benchmarking against the industry, because that's only going to be like kind of a guide rail of what it good might look like. That has no basis on who you are as a business owner. Like, create your own KPIs and like aim for that. Like, when you create your budget template and you create your total opportunity within it, and you look at your, total end user, let's say your technician utilization rate is 75% or 80%, whatever you want to make it. Like, if you want to create a great culture, make it 65%. You know what I mean? Like, whatever it is, and give them an opportunity to create another 10% in learning, where they can actually go and do some learning or upskills training during the week. Like, it's about who you are as a business, right? So like, stop looking to the industry for magic wands and create your own KPIs, and then aim for those as a culture and as a company to say, look, here's what's good to us. And you know why this is good to us? Because it's making me money, my people are happy, and everybody here is staying. That's what matters, right? So I know we get caught up in this, we got to be like everyone else. And I see these peer groups doing that kind of stuff. And I just think that's kind of a danger zone, because that's forcing you to be like everyone else.
Mhm.
And I love individuality. Like, you guys are all your own individual business owners. You're creating great things. There's a lot of innovation. All that time takes time, money, and effort, which is going to steer you away from those KPIs of the rest of the industry. So the more you try to steer toward it, like, you got these two masters trying to tell you what to do. And it's like, turn it off. Be
Yep.
you, make money, be great. Right. And that's where I encourage any business that I work with to do that. And I think it's really fun, because then you're like, free of the chains of like, oh, I got to be like this. You know what I mean? So that's just my thought.
Yeah,
Very
that's
good
something we
point.
learned at the summit where, because again, I come from a world where like that's all we did was KPIs and,
Yeah.
and trying to figure out the metrics. And it was like, well, how do I apply my own KPIs? Because I know it's not the industry standard,
Right.
but for the size I'm at, how do I do it? And so that was one of the sessions, was like, yeah, F them, create your own. And I was like, huh? And here's how you go ahead and do that. And it was like, huh. So that's what we did. And now I have KPIs there. I'm like, all right, cool. This is my realm of, I know everyone having a pulse and everyone's doing what they're supposed to do. And if we're in the red, hey, what the heck is going on here? And so now that's been eye opening to know that, hey, and we preach it all the time, right? And it's like we're saying, you don't have to be like everybody else. Everyone has their own spin on things. But it wasn't until I was like, huh, now now we can actually breathe that as much as we talk about it as well.
I'm glad you said that. How do you feel better now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because now I feel like I have control. Like I now know what's happening with my employees, and just
Yeah.
understanding, like before it was like, all right, let me see how many tickets got done. Let's get on these calls. Let's figure it out. But now it's spawning different conversations,
Yeah.
as you just mentioned, on what are the throughputs, why the throughputs are there. Am I overstaffed? All right, what do I got to figure out? It's just, it opens up a whole nother can of like things to take care of.
It gives you control of your business. Like,
Mhm.
we all got in this to chart our own destiny and sail out into the great blue ocean and find our own fish, right? And that's where I think we all have to be very cognizant of what we're trying to accomplish here. Is you're building a business that you wanted to build.
Right.
So don't get caught up in the imposter syndrome of managed services, saying you have to be like this.
Right.
People are making money off of telling you what to be. Don't
Right.
do that. Don't fall in that trap, man. Like, just be you. Like, be the company you want to be. Create that great culture. Like, a lot of the ones you see that are succeeding with great people behind them, and like they got a lot of people that are excited about coming to work, it's because the company works with them. The company works for them, not them working for a company, right? So I just can't express that enough, man. Like, do what you love, do you, and like, be an awesome version of you. If you need help, hit us up. Like, this is what it's about. It's about community. If you guys need any help, find me on LinkedIn, send me a message. Just like Paco, I'll answer. And I'll be like, what's up? So
Well, it sounds, very much like what we were talking about the last couple of shows, Pacos, is, what works for you is what's going to work.
yeah.
Right. Yep.
But uh, Juan, I really want to thank you for coming in today. I think we got some great conversation, and I think the people out there will take some great learnings from this and appreciate your time. Is there, before we close out, is any final thoughts or anything else you'd like to say you think we might have missed?
Hey, like I said, just come out. Lots of great stuff. There's a lot of great community out there. You got a bunch of great shows that are coming. You're going to get to see me and Paco on stage live at a couple of events coming. So stay tuned for that. I'm dragging him along, so sorry he may miss the show. I'm just saying. I apologize in advance, right? But when you meet good people and you're sharing good information and you're able to all tides raise all ships, man, like it's got to be done. Like everybody's got a story. Do me a favor and go tell that story. Not only internally, tell it externally. Get on this show, come find us, come and tell us what it means to you to run a business. Like I love hearing those stories, man. So just go out there and make a difference is all I can say.
Okay, sounds good. Paco, any final
Yes.
lasting thoughts?
No, I just want to thank Juan for coming out. I think the next event, Juan, we'll see you at is Build It. Is that the next one?
Build It Live, July 27th through 29th. Come and see us, man. It's gonna be great. Back to back. Then we're going to ChannelCon, Paco.
Yep, August 2nd to the 4th. Yep, in Chicago. And then we got TechCon for sure. But, I think that, if you all have the opportunity to chat and meet with Juan, definitely reach out to him. He got you his information over at LinkedIn. We'll have his contact information in the show notes if there's other information or just to know more about the MSP Growth Coalition. But no, I think everything for this show is just, there's help out there. And I think that you just have to know that you're not alone doing it. And when I say that, I really do mean that you're not alone in doing it for the fact of it doesn't have to be business wise. It doesn't have to be operations wise. It doesn't even have to be revenue wise. It could be even emotional or mental on trying to figure out why am I killing myself to do this thing? And is it even worth it? And, there are plenty of us that have been through that, and figuring it out. And I just think of a story when we were in Channel Futures in Vegas where I called Juan in the morning after, and I was like, look, man, this is what's going on. I don't know what we're trying to do. And, again, there's a lot of great people here to help you in whatever facet to make you successful as an individual, as a human being, and also in your business, because you have a story to tell, and that's what we try to highlight here. So, but yeah, you can find me here normally every Tuesday and Thursday, but I will be gone next week. So I actually will be on vacation. I will not be at a speaking event. So Rick will be manning the Tuesday and Thursday of next week, but you'll find me in the following June 7th. And I look forward to talking to you all then.
I'll be charting my own course. But again, Juan, thanks so much for joining us. Okay. Just to wind down, I want to remind everyone again, tickets are on sale at TechconUnplugged.com. And go visit the website to see all of the exciting updates. We will have some more things coming. Just some final things that are coming up. We'll keep you in the loop with everything there. So with that being said, I'd like to ask everybody to tune in every Tuesday and Thursday. You can watch the video podcast on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged or on facebook.com/MSP Unplugged. Need you to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. You'll be notified when there's a new episode is available. You can also take us on the go with your favorite podcatcher app. We're on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. I do want to make one announcement. I know we have some people joining us on LinkedIn. I promise, by the next show, we will have the exact LinkedIn link, and I will mention it. But again, I want to thank everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time on MSP Unplugged.